Elon Musk saying that he plans to be super focused right now on his businesses and return to spending all of his time at work. Joining us right now, CNBC contributor Walter Isaacson. He's a Perella Weinberg Advisory Partner, Tulane University professor, and the author, of course, of Elon Musk. Also, Steve Jobs, Benjamin Franklin. We can go on. I don't know if we want to do the politics part of this first. Given some of the comments that he made that we saw overnight.
Yeah, but none of that was surprising. You could see that, we talked about this before, that he was going to get frustrated because he doesn't own the federal government. And he's particularly frustrated at this big, beautiful bill that does nothing to try to codify the DOGE cuts.
Were you so surprised, though, that he was so public about it, given the relationship he has with the president?
There is no... the only thing that would ever surprise me about Elon Musk is if he bit his tongue.
Yeah. In terms of... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we just intimated, we had a guest intimating someone's going to be a trillionaire. And he said, yeah, I think we know who it is. And I think we do know who it is.
Well, I think that him focusing back on his companies again, he needed to...
Not that far away.
No. And what happens is he has said something interesting, which is, all right, they're not going to cut federal spending.
Right.
I was delusional to think that the interests in Washington would allow that to happen. And he says things that are very weird and forward-looking, but then you have to think about them, which is the only way to solve this is to increase productivity by tenfold, by an order of magnitude. And I'll be able to do that with Optimus the robot, full self-driving cars, Neuralink. And if I focus on that, I can solve the problem by increasing productivity.
And we never cut spending. We just increase everything.
Well, I mean, he just feels Washington will never cut spending.
Right. So it's gross.
So the stock has moved on the back of this idea that he is now back sleeping on the factory floor, that he's now... And he's one of these people, and you've written about this, when he gets his back up against a wall or he feels that that's when he sort of pushes ahead even more.
He's like Andrew Jackson. He's made for the storm, he said. When it's calm, things are bad. And he loves sleeping under his desk at the Tesla factory or in the Starship, the new Starship.
But do you consider his back against the wall this time? Because in truth, I mean, we've talked about it, even though, you could argue that the stock wasn't performing the way it was before, it's still the best-selling car in the country now.
He can gin up anxiety and gin up the fact that we have to have a maniacal intensity, and that's what he's doing now.
In his recent interview, he said someone said, what are you talking about? What was fake? And he goes, that I'm a Nazi and give, Heil Hitler. So that became, I mean, he has suffered the slings and arrows of a media backlash. Now I'm going to sound like Trump, the likes of which no one has ever seen.
And by the way, he's being sued right now by attorneys general from 12 states.
I think his back's up against
it was late last night when the Raptor engines of the Starship second stage didn't perform perfectly, and he's sitting there obsessing about that rather than, I mean, by the way, who did he give this interview to where he's attacking this big, beautiful bill? He gives it to CBS News.
It's funny, yeah, I know. That's interesting.
But the slings and arrows. By the way, they're not suing the president for DOGE. They're suing him, which I mean that's got to be so frustrating.
I bet you, even though he has a pretty big mind, he cannot keep up with the number of lawsuits hitting him on everything.
Which, more than anything, it's got to be frustrating from the loss of time if you have to go and testify. If you have to go.
I know. I noticed that in a couple of them, he was supposed to testify or even give depositions, and he's been able to. But he is going to have a maniacal intensity right now on both Tesla and its self-driving in particular and robotaxi, and on, I think, Starship. The Starship that went up last night was supposed to have, it's like a Pez dispenser. It's totally amazing. And just take these huge Starlink satellites, the big ones, and soon you'll be able to use Starlink. You won't need your local cell phone carrier. So if you're going to get to be a trillionaire, you got to focus on stuff like that.
He's still young.
The next, though, 2 months, I imagine we're going to be hearing a lot about robotaxis as it relates to Tesla. And the maniacal focus that he's going to have, but also the maniacal focus that the media and the public is going to have on whether these cars that are going to be roaming around Austin work.
Exactly. And the problem is there are going to be accidents and problems, as there are with Waymo or robotaxi. Right. And they may be safer than a human driver. But in the times we discussed it, I'd say it has to be at least 10, maybe 100 times safer, because one person getting killed by a robotaxi is going to be a lot more news than 100 different accidents.
I haven't studied. Maybe you have. What's happened? I mean, Waymo now, which obviously is running cars around San Francisco and LA and all sorts of other places. What is the accident rate at this point? Do we know if it's actually...
It's not that high. There's a major difference between the Waymo and the robotaxi, let's call it, which is Waymo does it with mapping. So it has to keep the map of this very circumscribed area in San Francisco exactly updated at all times. And they, you start saying, I come from New Orleans. You have a map of a street, and the next day it's got a huge pothole. But they have to keep doing that. Whereas Teslas do it only with cameras, no LiDAR.
Right, no LiDAR, no radar. Right.
And that will make it so that it can be done universally.
And therefore, you think long term, that's the real opportunity set for him.
Huge. If you get it to work, and I suspect he will get it to work. And I don't think he went into government to help his businesses, but it does help his business that he's, let us say, reduce the power of the National Highway Transportation Safety Board and those type of regulatory agencies.
What do you think the chances are? I was talking to a venture capitalist the other day who was saying, what do you think the chances are that XAI and the AI operation ultimately gets merged up with Tesla?
I think it's going to happen. And I think it's going to happen because Musk, even in my book, when he's starting XAI, when he's doing it, he's talking about, okay, these chatbots are fine, but what you need is real-world AI. You need to be able to not only take all the text that's ever been written, all the tweets that have been, but all the videos from Teslas and all the Optimus robots seeing and the hearing. And you will have real-world AI, and once again, that'll be one order of magnitude increase from what we're looking at now. And he feels the reason he wants a big pay increase, whatever, is he feels he has to control any company that's doing AI, and I suspect eventually he'll find it.
Two related. One